Okay, hello everybody. Shalom Aleichem. I'm doing this for many years. I don't know how many, at least a decade. And the first time I stood here and did this, and they had the Rebbe's chair right here, I was in the frame of mind of what it means to stand here when all of us understands that the reason the Neshey Chabad, the Neshey Chabad are gathered is because the Rebbe is here and the Rebbe is giving brachas. And the fact is, you get used to everything, even this speech. This is one of the most difficult things I do. It's very hard, and every year I ask them to get somebody else. It's hard to get a replacement also. To say I have the same hergish as I stand here that I felt the first time I was invited to come and give this talk is not honest. It's just not true. But at least I feel that I should feel that we're standing in front of the Rebbe. We gathered in 770 with the full belief that we have to do what we have to do, as the expression in the Gemara is, Ein ledayin ela ma she'ein avrayos. You can only react to what you see, and our physical eyes, at least for most of us, need another body to stand, or a video, or whatever the particulars are. But we have full emunah, absolute emunah, that the Rebbe is present and the Rebbe is showering us with brachas ad bli dai, more and more and greater and higher, including the bracha of his kashrus, including the bracha of actually feeling connected to the Rebbe, to the Nasi Ador, and to draw strength to be Yidden and to be Chassidim and to live with the imminent coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, besimcha, ba'atzlacha, ba'avoida, ba'poyel. So, it says in Likutei Torah that sometimes a person has to have rachmanis on his neshama. It doesn't look at the Torah. Sometimes a person has, it says in Tanya that when a person is doing tshuva, one of the parts of doing tshuva is having mercy on your soul, rachmanis on your neshama. What happens if you don't have rachmanis on your neshama? So you say, Avinu of haracham on hamerachem rachamna. The Eibusha should have rachmanis on the neshama and the lack of rachmanis. I sort of feel like that. So lebe ich Rachmanis haben, man soll leben jeden Regen mit den Reben, und man soll sicher sein, take of me, hat sehen sich mit den Reben, nach rausgehen von dem Goles, besimcha und batzlocha. This coming year is Hakel, and you don't need me to tell you that the Rebbe stürmt Hakel, in an extraordinary way. And of course, the essence of Hakel, the Nakuda, the essence, the point of Hakel is ha'om, ha'anoshim, v'hanoshim, v'hataf. Hakel is true, no discrimination. There's no classes. There's nobody better, there's nobody worse, there's nobody more deserving, there's nobody less deserving. Hakel is everybody, equally. Now how could you have anything in Yiddishkeit that the biggest chacham, and mamash a po'ot, an infant, a baby that's a day old, and everybody in between should be exactly the same? Hakel es ha'om, ha'anoshim, v'hanoshim, v'hataf. No discrimination, no distinctions between one person and another. How could such a thing exist? And the answer, of course, is we have a precedent for it. We have in the Torah the first story of Hakel, and in Chumash, that event, that date, is actually called Yom HaKohol. In Parshas V'aschanon, Hakel is called Yom HaKohol, the very same word that the Pasuk uses in Parshas Vayelach, in the Chitas of next Parsha. When we read the mitzvah of Hakel, so the Parshas V'aschanon, Matan Torah is described as Yom HaKohol. By Aseres HaDibreis, everyone was invited. It wasn't for men, it wasn't for adults, it wasn't for people of Yigiyah L'Chinuch, it was for everybody. Why? Because Matan Torah, the Eibusha spoke to the Neshama. And the Neshama is the same by everybody. And this is not an Indian in Chassidus, this is an Indian halacha. Hakel is a mitzvah saseh. Hakel is one of the 613 mitzvahs that they came once in 7 years, right? Everybody knows that women are potter from aliyah l'regel. It says in the Chumash, Sholosh pa'amim b'Hashonoh, Yeroeh kol zechorcha. Going to the Beis HaMikdash on Pesach and on Shavuos and on Sukkot was a mitzvah on men, and boys, im yochel lahalech beraglo, if he can hold on to his father's hand and walk up the mountain, he had to go aliyah l'regel, go to the Beis HaMikdash. Women were potter from aliyah l'regel. They went mishpachas, but they're not mechuyev. Once in 7 years, there was a chiyuv on everybody. Once in 7 years, women had a mitzvah to come to the Beis HaMikdash themselves. And moreover, this is really the biggest chiddush of all, children had a mitzvah to come to the Beis HaMikdash themselves. If they had parents, their parents brought them. And if they didn't have parents, they brought themselves. Because the mitzvah of Hakel applies to every person, man, woman, and child. Why? Because Hakel, the Rambam describes as being the reenactment of Matan Torah. That was the concept. Hashem came down on a mountain and he gave us Aseres HaDibros. And as we all know, that when the Eibishter came down on the mountain and he gave us the Aseres HaDibros, he didn't give us the Aseres HaDibros. Matan Torah was not about the Aseres HaDibros. Hashem came down on the mountain and he gave us himself. At Matan Torah, we all experienced Hashem, Ein Sof, Atzmus Amos Ein Sof Baruch Hu Kvei Yachol, the Eibishter himself. And he gave himself to every single Jew, man, woman, and child. And on that occasion, they didn't have any discriminatory criteria. It was for everybody. Because when the Eibishter comes down on a mountain and he gives himself to the Jewish people, if you're Jewish, the Eibishter gave himself to you, everybody. This is the nigla, this is the halacha. So the Pasuk says, and the Gemara discusses, and the Rambam brings it down the halacha, that once in 7 years, Yidden gathered in the Beis HaMikdash, men, women, and children. Everybody, men, women, and children. And the Melech would read, the king would read select sections from Sefer Devarim. I have to tell you, I'm looking forward to Hakel, I gotta tell you, but let me warn you now, Hakel is probably going to be quite boring, because he read about half of the Sefer Devarim. He didn't read 6 psukim, he read a couple of 100 psukim. He read big chunks. The king got up and he would read ganze Stücke Devarim. And of course, what do you do if the king's an Am Haaretz or Nakenish Lenin? So they had to prepare him. The king would read. And the Rambam says an unbelievable expression. The Rambam says that Melech hu shliach ha'el. That when the king would get up in the Beis HaMikdash and he would read Hakel, he was the shliach of the Eibishter himself, and as the Rebbe would always say, Shluchei shel Adam ha'elyen kemoisei mamish. That when the king would stand in the Beis HaMikdash and he would read the psukim from Sefer Devarim, the Eibishter was talking. He was the shliach of the Eibishter, and the Eibishter was talking. And just like at Har Sinai, when the Eibishter gave us the Aseres HaDibros, he wasn't giving us the mitzvahs, he was giving us himself. Once in the Shemitah, once in 7 years, there was a mitzvah for Yidden to come and to reenact, to create again Aseres HaDibros. Kvayachol, the Eibishter, you couldn't see. So the Melech was Shluchei Shel Adam Ha'elyon Kemoisai. The Melech Kvayachol spoke on behalf of Atzmus Amos Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And the Rambam uses a very interesting expression. You have to sit and have kavanah. You have to have kavanah. Part of the kavanah is to what the king is saying. What if you don't understand the Hebrew? You don't understand the word he's saying. You have to have kavanah that the Eibishter is talking to you. And you're standing by Har Sinai. And you're face to face with Atzmus Amos. You're face to face with Eibishter himself. This was the idea of Hakel. And the Torah teaches us that the purpose of Hakel was Yishmayu v'yilmedu v'yoru. Yiras Hashem. The purpose of people came to Hakel not to hear Pilpulim, Lumdis, Torah, even Mikra. People came to Hakel to meet Hashem, man, woman, and child. And they came to Hakel to meet Hashem for the purposes of renewing the sense of how real Hashem is. Just like by Aseres HaDibris, just like by Matan Torah, just like by Har Sinai, Hashem was very real. Once in 7 years you came, you had a kavanah, you had a meditation, you had a focus. The king is reading, and what are you thinking? The Eibishter is talking to me. Hashem himself is talking to me, and I have to create in my mind, in my heart, and my soul, a real sense. The Kayachol, Hashem is now engaging with me, that it should inspire with me a renewed Yiras Hashem, Yira. Not I'm afraid Hashem is going to hit me, Hashem is going to punish me, but Yiras Hareimamus, a fear which has awe and respect and responsibility, Ordentlichkeit, Ernstkeit, earnestness, seriousness. Being a Yid is serious. Torah mitzvahs are important and serious. And when you meet the Eibishter, you renew that sense of earnestness. And this was Hakel. And Hakel was men, women, and children. The Rebbe spoke numerous times that for everything they had in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, we have a Zecher. Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, and we're missing many mitzvahs and many inyonim. But you make a Zecher for the Beis HaMikdash. I'm going to give you an example that people don't realize, yeah? We shake a lulav 7 days. There's no mitzvah to shake a lulav 7 days. There's a mitzvah to take a lulav 1 day. That's the din. Why do we take a lulav 7 days? Because in the Beis HaMikdash it took 7 days. So we take it 7 days. But the chiyuv of lulav is only 1 day. Every Inyan in Yiddishkeit that they had at the times of the Beis HaMikdash, we have a zecher for. And the Rebbe said, but no, there's no zecher for Hakel. Yidden never created a means, an Inyan, of a recollection, of a memory of Hakel. And the Rebbe asked why, and the Rebbe offered some answers. The bottom line is the Rebbe created Hakel. And he didn't only create Hakel, he created what's called Shnas Hakel, a year of Hakel. Hakel was 1 day. The first day Chalamei Tzukis was Hakel, that's it. The Rebbe made a whole year, from Rosh Hashonoh till Rosh Hashonoh, every minute of Shnas Tov Shin Pei Gimel is Shnas Hakel. It's a year of Hakel. And I want to share something with you. I want to share something with you which everybody knows, but it'll drive home the point that I'm trying to make. The Rebbe, our Rebbe, the Rebbe Zogazun Zayin, started to give kuntreisim. Remember, at a certain point, the Rebbe started giving out Maimorim, Siches, Tanyas, right? The Rebbe would stand and just give to thousands and thousands of people. The first kuntres the Rebbe distributed was in Tafshin Mem Ches, 1980. It was still 87. It was the kuntres Hecholzu. If you remember, the kuntres Hecholzu. The Rebbe gave the kuntres Hecholzu on Chof Mar Cheshvan, Tafshin Mem Ches, Shnas Tismach. The birthday of the Rebbe Rashab. When the Rebbe gave out the kuntres Hecholzu, the Rebbe had rules. You had to be a boy over 12 or a girl over 11 to take the kuntres. The Rebbe did not give the Hecholzu to children. And when you walked by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe handed you the kuntres, the Rebbe handed you the kuntres, I don't know if you remember, but the Rebbe said to each person, Ahatzlacha diken lernen. That was the nusach. He didn't give you a bracha of Ahatzlacha, he didn't say l'chaim v'lebracha. He gave you the kuntres Hecholzu, and he said to you, I got one from the Rebbe, I heard it myself, Ahatzlacha diken lernen. You should learn this kuntres successfully. Because the Rebbe wanted us to know that he's not giving us a kuntres we should put in the shelf and let it collect dust. The next kuntres, which I think was almost a whole year later, there were no rules. Baby's got a kuntres. Anoshim noshim v'taf. And he didn't say Hatzlacha diken lernen. He just gave. Why? So of course, I don't know why, but I think when the Rebbe gave the kuntres Hecholzu, that was given like a Rebbe gives Chassidim. A Rebbe gives Chassidim Torah to learn. If he wanted to give little children something, he would have given them an Aleph-Beis chart. But the kuntreisim after that was Hakel. And Hakel is not Chas v'Sholom, you shouldn't learn, but it's not for learning. It's for Yiras Hashem. It's Anoshim, Noshim v'Taf. There's no everybody, men, women, and children. All the kuntreisim except for the Hecholzu. The Rebbe didn't make rules that you have to be a certain age, and he certainly didn't tell you when he handed it to you I'm giving this to you that you should learn it, not put it in the shelf. This is Hakel. Rabbi say Hakel. And the Rebbe obsessed over Hakel. You know, in the Rebbe's Nesius, the first Hakel was Tovshin Yud Gimel, 1952. The Rebbe made a special Fabrengen, spoke very deep in Yonim and Nigla about Hakel. The next Hakel was Tovshin Chof, 1959, 1960. The third was Tovshin Chof Zayin. The fourth was Tovshin Lamed Daled. The fifth was Tovshin Mem Aleph. The sixth was Tovshin Mem Ches. The seventh was Tovshin Nun Hey. Tovshin Samach Beis, Tovshin Samach Tes, Tovshin Ayin Vav, Tovshin Pei Gimel. Each later Hakel, the Rebbe talked more. Each later Hakel, the Rebbe spoke more impassioned about the inyan that you have to make Hakel. And he introduced an idea which doesn't have a place in Teda. It's not a day of Hakel, it's a year. Shnaz Hakel. And in Memches, in 1987-88, Tovshin Memches, when the Rebbe spoke about Hakel, you could see the Sichas Armuga, Yud Gimel Tishrei, and other occasions. The Rebbe literally begged at Gebeten. He begged. Amazolton in Hakel. The Rebbe had different expressions. You know? The Rebbe would sometimes ask us for things, right? On rare occasions, the Rebbe would say that this is Abakosha Nafshis. I'm asking this of you, and this is Negeh to my Neshama. By Hakel, the Rebbe used a third expression. The Rebbe said, Abakosha Nafshis, Abakosha Atzmis. That's what the Rebbe said. I don't know what Atzmis means, but I know that it's something very, very important. The Rebbe was obsessed with Hakel and begged us to turn in Hakel. And what is Hakel? Pasha, to get together. Men with men and women with women and children with children. And the Rebbe discussed the particulars of Hakel. The Rebbe said, in a home, the father is the king. So he reads from the Sefer Torah. In a classroom, the teacher is the king. So she reads from the Sefer Torah. In the school, the principal is the king. In the shul, the rav is the king. In every environment, somebody is the melech, and they are shliach hakel, shluchei shel adam elyon k'maisei, and they create the mood of Hakel. You should get together. The Rebbe begged, get together, families, communities, groups. It has to be b'ofen sanua, as the Rebbe explained. But the Rebbe begged, gebeten, begged, mazalton in Hakel. And Hakel is you gather together. The Rebbe used to say sometimes make a party, get together, be together. And the end has to be Yiras Shamayim. The end has to be, the takeaway from Hakel has to be a sense of Yiras Shamayim. Yiras Shamayim means that we should take Yiddishkeit, Torah, mitzvahs, and our daily lives a little bit more seriously. This is the takeaway of Hakel. So we're on the precipice of another Hakel. So we're talking about Hakel. And obviously it goes without saying, it stands to reason, it goes without saying, that this means that as this new year is coming, we should all do Hakel. Hakel Pashat means you sit with your family, you say, okay, this meal is Hakel. So you say Advat Torah, and you mention that Hakel means that the Eibishter is giving us the Torah, and we're standing and receiving the Torah from Hashem, and we don't even have to know what the words mean, but we have to have a kavanah. And the kavanah is that Hashem is talking to us, and we have to take upon ourselves Yiras Hashem, fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the spirit of Hakel. Now, in the course of the Rebbe's Nesius, the Rebbe gave us three concepts of Hakel. Over the course of the Rebbe's Nesius, the Rebbe gave us three concepts of Hakel. The first is once in 7 years. Once in 7 years is Shnas Hakel. And as I said before, in the Beis HaMikdash, it wasn't Shnas Hakel, it was Yom Hakel. It was 1 day, Yom Hakel, 1 day in 7 years. That made a whole year into Hakel. And again, what is the definition of Hakel? In plain words, Anoshim Noshim V'taf. I remember they make Siyam HaRambams. Siyam HaRambam is a section for men, a section for women, a section for children. What are children doing by Siyam HaRambam? Women, I understand, but what are children doing by Siyam HaRambam? The teretz is, it's Hakel. And Hakel, you don't have to understand. Hakel has to go into the neshama. So the first example of Hakel was Takeshnaz Hakel. The second example of Hakel was Shvuas. the Rebbe introduced a mitzvah in the middle Lamed, in the middle 70s. At the first day, Shavuos, you have to bring everybody to shul, even babies. That's Hakel. Every year on Shavuos, right, in Lubavitch, we call it the day of the ice cream party, right? You go wherever there are Yidden, you gather together, men, women, and children, and read Aseret Adibris. And the idea that the Rebbe introduced and spoke so much about, that on the first day Shavuos, everybody should be in shul, including mamish newborns. Mamish newborns is the same principle. Hashem is giving us the Torah. And when Hashem gives us the Torah, you have to be there. And you have to be mechava. I don't understand what he's saying, but have kavanah that Hashem is talking to me. And the third example of Hakel, which the Rebbe introduced, I mean, the Rebbe spoke about it many times, but this seems to be something that the Rebbe introduced later, is that it says in Medrash, and the Rebbe spoke about it so many times, that Moshe Rabbeinu was Makel Kehilis B'Yisrael B'Shabbos. That every Shabbos is Hakel. The same idea, Anoshim Noshim B'Taf. So over the course of the Rebbe's Nesiyas, the Rebbe developed more and more the idea of a Hakel. And Hakel is consistent with everything that Chassidus teaches, because Chassidus speaks to the Neshama. Chassidus is about the Neshama. And the Neshama is Shava L'chol Nefesh. The Neshama doesn't know the difference between an adult and a child, someone who understands and doesn't understand. It's a Inyan Pnimi. Now, of course, the Gemara says that Mashiach comes Meitzoi Shvius. The Gemara says that Mashiach comes the year after Shemitah, which is now. This year, Shnas HaShemitah, Shabbos LaHashem, Tovshin Pei Beis, Shnas HaShemitah. And I'm not a Rav, but I would propose that maybe the women should ask a Rav about the possibility of making a pruzbul. A Taras Nedorim is one thing, but a pruzbul, to redeem, to be able to collect debts, if you have debts. I'm just mentioning this, that maybe if a lady has lent people money, she should go into the Rav over the next few days and ask how she could make a pruzbul. Pruzbul allows her to collect her debts, even though Shemitah has come and Shemitah is gone. Anyway, the Gemara says that Mashiach is going to come by Mitzvah Shvius at the end of Shemitah. In addition, not only was last year Shnas HaShemitah, it was also Shnas HaIber. It was a leap year. And leap years are also connected to Mashiach, because Mashiach is connected to Tshuva. Mashiach is connected to Tshuva. As steht in Ram Gemara, as steht in Rambam, and as steht in Lekutei Sichos, the Mashiach is connected to Tshuva. And the whole idea of a leap year is the idea of Tshuva. Because the reason you have a leap year is because the moon and the sun don't get along. The lunar year is 11 days shorter than the solar year. So you have to make it fixed. You have to make it work. And you make it work by adding 1 month every 2 or 3 years. So when you combine the fact that the year from which we are coming is Shnas HaShemitah Shabbos LaHavaya, it's Shnas HaShemitah, and it's Shnas HaIber in the Lashon Harav, it's the hechste Zeit, it's the optimum time, it's the highest time für des Gals of Melech HaMashiach, soll dem to helfen, aber man soll sein bepeil, man soll nicht nur solche sein, nur man soll sein bepeil mamish. And I just want to say, we're going to the new year, and of course, the preparation for the new year is cheshbon, taking stock of how our year has been and how we could improve it, and getting ready for what's called Vestachunesana, Teikev Kedushas Hayem Kunere Ve'oyim. That the Kevakoras Reye Edrei, everybody has to go by. It's a time that the Eibishter judges us. But Chassidus teaches us that on the one hand, it's a time that the Eibishter judges us, and on the other hand, it's a time of Melech Basodeh. The king is in the field. And Melech Basodeh, he's not in a bad mood. The Melech Basodeh is Makabel Kulam, B'Seiv Ponim Yofis. Umare Ponim Sheikh HaKes L'Kulam. Ve'Kulam, the Rebbe adds from the Friedrich Rebbe, Rashoyim v'Yechelim, Yechelim v'Rashoyim. Everybody is able to, and is permitted, in Chodesh Elul to approach Melech Macham Nocham HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who greets us with incredible ahava and incredible simcha, as he helps us prepare ourselves for the new year and the achlatas tevas that we're going to make in Avodah B'Peil Mamish. I mean, this is, everybody understands. The bottom line is, we're Jews. And Jews serve Hashem. And serving Hashem, first and foremost, has to do with our behavior, our actions, machshava, dibur, maaseh. what we think and what we say and what we do, and what we shouldn't think, and what we shouldn't say, and what we shouldn't do. And as we get ready for the new year, we make a cheshbon of all of that. And we make hachlotas teves, hachlotas takifes, we make strong, firm resolutions to improve in these inyanim. And we have the assistance, we have the ezer of the Melech Basadeh, that we should do all of these things with incredible atzlocha. Now, I always start my speech, was kann ich euch sagen? Der Rebbe sitzt da und gibt brachas. And I'm standing here and speaking. It's a very strange idea. So the Rebbe is giving brachas. And the Rebbe is giving brachas like the Rebbe knows how to give brachas. Miyadei, Amleya, Psucha, Kadesha, V'Agedusha, V'Arachava, all the brachas. What should I say? Whatever brachas we need, the Rebbe knows. And even the brachas that we do not know we need, the Rebbe knows that also. And he gives us all the brachas that Hashem should bless each and every one of us. Should be Shnas bracha, Shnas atzlacha, but Tevet Nirav Anigla, a year of health, and a year of seichel, and a year of wealth, and a year of nachas, and a year of atzlacha, and a year of shalom, and a year of simcha. And we should use all the brachas that the Eibishter gave us to serve Him, like the Rambam writes. The Rambam says what the Baal Shem Tov says, that if you're sick, you can't serve Hashem. If you're afraid, you can serve Hashem. If you're cold, you can serve Hashem. If you're hungry, you can serve Hashem. And therefore, Hayes Haguf Bari V'Shalom Midarki Avodas Hashem Hu. Amos sein gesund und stark begashmis und beruchnis. That Hashem has to give us health and wealth and seichel and nachas and kinder and shalom and simcha. He's not doing it for us. He needs us to have all of these brachas that we should be able to serve the Eibishter as the Eibishter Kvayachal wishes and wants and expects from each one of us. So Hashem should be mezaka us, that the brachas of the Rebbe should be mekuyim bepeil by each one of us, batzlacho begoloi, in every single aspect. Hashem should give us gringe herzer, freiliche herzer, offene herzer, lichtige herzer, breite herzer, wo es da Platz für einen zweiten Jiden und einen dritten Jiden und einen vierten Jiden, like in heintige Rambam. Aber man geht Stocker, darf man geben mit der Schmeichel. So der Eibishter uns geben sein Stocker mit der Schmeichel und wir sollen gehen einen im zweiten Stocker mit der Schmeichel. Der Eibishter soll uns helfen. Und wir haben die richtige, I'm sorry I changed to Yiddish. Hashem should bless us all. We should have the true Ksiva v'chasima teva, Hashonoh teva mesuka, a richtige süße Jahr, a truly sweet year. And take us from B'yad, we say sich zen mit den Rebben, and it should take us out of Golos, b'simcha b'atzlocha, and we should have take hakel esa'om, ha'anoshim v'ataf, in Beis Hamikdash Shlishi v'peil mamish, take us from B'yad. Okay, a good year, a good year.